Good evening, everybody. My name is Kristen Taylor. I'm the Assistant Director for the Office of Career, Professional Development, and Diversity Initiatives at Thurgood Marshall School of Law here at Texas Southern University, and I'm happy to host the 2020-2021 Houston Bar Association Diversity and Inclusion 1L Summer Clerkship and Mentoring Program info session. That was a mouthful. Basically, we're here to talk about all of the tips and do's and don'ts and answer questions and give information for students who may be interested in applying to this dynamic program. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce our panelists. And I'm just going to go based off of the list that's in front of me. I'd like to introduce Bruce Ruzinski. Bruce is a partner at Jackson Walker in the restructuring and bankruptcy litigation and also a longtime HBA member and diversity and inclusion committee member. We have Ms. Pamela Medina. She's an attorney at Medina Law, Texas, and she focuses her practice primarily on estate administration and planning, guardianships, trusts, and civil litigation. We also have former Texas Supreme Court Justice David Medina, who's married to Pamela Medina, and he's a shareholder at Chamberlain Herdlicka in the Commercial Litigation Department. We have Jackie Rex, who's an associate at Smizer, Kaplan, and Veselka. I believe I may have butchered that name, but Jackie, please don't,
you got it.
Don't take it out on me. Okay. And she's in the Commercial Litigation and White Collar Defense group. And then finally, we have Charles Graham. Charles Graham is a current 2L at Texas Southern University's Thurgood Marshall School of Law, and he's an alum of the HBA 1L Diversity and Inclusion Summer Clerkship Program. So I'm very excited and thankful to have all the panelists on the call. And I guess we can get started by just discussing an overview of the program. And I guess that question maybe should go to Jackie.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time to be with us. We understand that there's a lot going on right now and some final exams, so we appreciate you giving us some time. So the Houston Bar Association, let me start there, is an organization here in Houston. It is made up of thousands of lawyers. The HBA is further broken up into a variety of subcommittees, the Diversity Inclusion Committee being one of them. Every year, the D&I Committee, as we'll say for short, recruits employers who then will put on a 1L summer clerkship. This program is specifically for 1L students from Houston's 3 area law schools that identify as racially or ethnically diverse or identify as a member of the LGBTQ+ community. Students who apply to this program have a unique opportunity to obtain internships with law firms, both big and small, with corporations that we have in town, nonprofits, and also state and federal judges. What makes this program unique is, especially for law firms and paying internships, which usually are reserved for the 2L students, 1L students are the focus of this group. So this really is an opportunity for you to jumpstart your legal career by applying to this program and interviewing with one of the many different employers that we are going to be recruiting for this year.
Okay, thank you. And students have the opportunity to serve in a variety of different employment roles. Could you maybe highlight some of the different types of practice areas or experience levels that they might get to experience as a part of the program?
Sure, I'm happy to touch on that as well. So very briefly, just to kind of go back to what we had said, the recruiters that participate in this program are law firms, corporations, nonprofit groups, and also judges. For the law firms, the work that is done can be everything from litigation to transactional work. We recruit employers who do plaintiffs only work, defense work, or a mix. We have a variety of legal departments for corporations, big and small, that will participate in the program as well. And they will have the student interns doing a variety of assignments, be it for litigation-specific work, it could be more regulatory. Nonprofits are similar in that way. And then finally, we've got the judges, both state and federal. Depending on what judge you seek employment with and get an internship with, you could see everything from civil cases to federal criminal cases. We have family judges that will participate. Our federal judges handle a number of immigration matters. So really the types of opportunities that are available through this program are very, very broad. And so if you have a particular interest in a particular area of law, we're confident that we can find an opportunity for you. Or if you're early in your career and you just are not sure what exactly it is that you want to do, but you want to get a certain experience, or you want to see if you like a particular practice area, or you like working in a particular sector, sign up for this program. We are confident that we will be able to find a place for you so that you can get that valuable experience.
Right, there's lots of opportunities, and I believe each career office will have a list of all the participating employers before the application opens, correct? So students can always check in on our TMSL Simplicity site, and you can see a list of the employers and learn a little bit about what the position or the firm might entail. You can also do your own research, and we encourage you to do your own research to find out exactly what type of law the firm that you're applying to or the judge that you're applying to tends to handle. I think the more prepared and more researched you are about the employers that you're applying to, the better off your application will be. So with that segue, let's talk about the application process, because it is very detailed, but I think there's a good reason for that, and it's a base level screening to make sure that every student is qualified and really committed to, you know, giving their all to this program. Who wants to talk about the types of applications? Because I know there's an employer application and then the generic application. Jackie?
I'm happy to go about and discuss that too, sure. And full disclosure, I am one of the co-chairs of the committee. So we've got a few panel members here who are committee members as well, but I'm happy to give you guys a little bit more detail on that. Everything that I'm explaining to you is further detailed in what we call the student packet. Those packets have been provided to the Career Resource Center at your school. And if they haven't been passed out already, then they'll be made available to you shortly.
Yes.
But just to kind of give you an overview of what to expect with the application process. So this committee requires two types of applications. The first type of application is what we call employer specific. So as Kristen told you, we will provide a list of employers, and that list will be placed on your Simplicity site. You will then have the opportunity to select up to 5 employers of your choice, be they law firms, judges, corporations, whatever you think is best for you. You will then have the opportunity to submit an application to those 5 specific employers of your choice. Now, in addition to those specific applications, you are also asked to submit what we will call a generic application. And that generic application comes to us as the D&I committee. And what we do is we review all of those generic applications, and we look for additional employers that you did not apply to. So this is separate from the 5 that you already selected. And we will go ahead and submit your generic application to them for consideration. All that is to say is that although you are only allowed to select 5 of your choice, your application very well could end up before many more employers through the generic application. Every year, we always get a question like, do I have to submit a generic application? And the answer is yes. In order to successfully apply for this program, you're required to do both types of applications. And honestly, it's to your benefit. Again, you might end up with your materials being reviewed by so many more employers and attorneys in this town through the generic application. So those are the two types of applications that you have to do. I mean, Kristen, as you know, there are a variety of components to those applications, and we're happy to go into detail about that as well.
Thank you. Yes, I feel like the issue that we repeatedly see in our career office from our applicants is not being careful about the details and the requirements of the application process. If students do not complete the required sections or do not follow the instructions to the T for the generic application, your applications to the employers will not be sent. right? You won't get to have any employers review your applications if you don't comply with the HBA program's generic application requirements. And it's very clear in the student packet, but you can also always reach out to myself or to Nikki Smith for detailed questions or for a review before the application deadline to make sure that all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. I have a list in front of me, some required application items that I just want to go over. You are required to have a cover letter, right? And the cover letter has to be addressed to the HBA Diversity and Inclusion Committee for the generic application. And then for the employer application, you need a cover letter addressed to each employer. And everyone else at this point should have already gone through our resume writing and cover letter writing workshop. So you guys should be prepared to do that. But that is a requirement. You are required to list your GPA on your resume. That is a disqualifier. So please make sure that your GPA is listed on your resume, no matter what it is. Everybody, by the time the applications are due, should have their fall 2020 grades. If you do not have your grades, that is something you need to let Nikki and I know so that we can communicate that information to the committee. You also are required to have a personal statement. And I think we have had some questions about whether the personal statement that students have used to apply to law school could also be applied to this program. That is within your discretion as a student to choose one way or the other, but I think that's probably a good example of the type of writing that the committee would like to see. You just want to be mindful of the length requirements, right? And then there's also going to be an attestation form. Jackie or another panelist, would you like to kind of go into a little bit of detail about attestation form? And I know it's going to be virtual this year.
Sure, I'm happy to discuss that as well. So as we mentioned earlier, this program really is reserved for students of a diverse background, be that racially, ethnically, or that they're part of either the LGBTQ+ community. The attestation form contains a variety of options of the different categories of diverse backgrounds that are students that are allowed to apply for this program. So as part of your application process, you will be asked to self-identify off that list. That list is something that will be available on Simplicity. You will have to fill that out electronically. And just like every other component of the applications, this is mandatory. So if this attestation form is not completed and part of your packet, then unfortunately we as the committee are unable to consider your application.
Right, and that's because we really want to make sure that students who are underrepresented in the profession do receive these opportunities. So there is not going to be an investigation into the truthfulness of what you put on your attestation form. We are expecting you to be honest and truthful and only apply to the program if you fit the requirements. So give yourself plenty of time to complete the applications. Please proofread your applications, check with Nikki and I for assistance if you have questions or you just like us to go through the application process with you before you submit anything to make sure that you give yourself the best opportunity to be successful in applying to the program. I also see a few tips that we should maybe cover. Make sure that your employer cover letters reference the correct name of the employer. If you're applying to law firm A, please make sure that your letter is addressed to law firm A and that you reference law firm A in all of your correspondence. Those little attention to detail things are very important. And you want to make a good impression on the employer with your writing. This is the first time they get to experience any of your legal writing. If you're hired for the position, you'll be doing a lot of writing, presumably as an intern or a clerk. So we do want to make sure that we take pride in our work and that everything is correct and accurate. Also, I mentioned this before, do some research into what type of work the employer that you're applying to handles. There are some employers that only do litigation work, some employers that only do transactional work. You'll want to know that distinction and mention that in your writing. Do we have any questions before we move on from the application process, or are there any panelists who want to make any comments?
I'll add just one thing to what you said. You know, the care and attention that goes into the application is really important. I mean, just imagine that these employers get dozens and dozens and sometimes 100 or more applications for just a handful of openings. And you really want to be able to distinguish your application by making sure there are no errors in it. There are no typos. It reads well. And it's something that whoever reads it can come away from reading it and conclude, you know, there was real care and attention that was given by the person who put that together. And that's really meaningful. You're looking for ways to positively distinguish yourself from the many applications that a prospective employer is receiving. And one way you can do that in a really positive way is to make sure it's prepared properly, there are no errors, and it tells a good story and provides good information, and you follow directions, and it's professionally done.
If I may, Kristen, you know, every year when I work with students, I will usually get a question saying, you know, we're applying very, very early into the second semester. I've got one semester of law school under my belt. I'm coming straight from undergrad, or I had a different career. I don't have a ton of legal experience. I don't have a ton of legal content knowledge. How on earth do I make myself stand out in a cover letter? Or, you know, how can I convince an employer that I'm someone who should get an opportunity? And too often I run into students who are fearful that they cannot fit that bill, and therefore they don't apply to programs like this. They pull themselves out of the running before ever getting into the race. And so what I like to tell students is this, and this is specific to this program. We have attorneys from all over the city who are invested in your professional development and are looking to provide students such as yourselves with opportunities. There's lots of firms, corporations, there's judges in town. This program is unique. Every year we have these employers who will reach out to us and say, I want to sign up. I want to be one of the employers through this program. And there's a number of employers who set aside internship spots just for students through this program. They might have 5 slots available at their law firm, and one of them is going to go to a D&I summer clerk. And that is just the way that they have structured their program. So that is just to tell you guys, apply for this program. There are spots for you. There are employers that are looking for your application so that they can give you an opportunity. Now, again, what do you do if you're in a position where you're not really sure what you want to do, you don't have a ton of legal knowledge? I will tell you, these employers know that you're 1L students or you've completed a year of law school, and that you might not know what you want to do. That is perfectly fine. What I usually tell students, and when I look at a resume of someone who is young, someone who is just starting out their legal career, what I really want to know and what stands out for me is, does this person have an interest in this kind of work? Does this person have an interest in getting a certain experience? I don't expect you to be an expert. What I do want to do is give an opportunity to somebody who is hungry for it. So like at my firm, for example, we only do litigation. We do no transactional work whatsoever. So if I get a cover letter from someone who says, you know, I'd like to be a trial lawyer someday. I don't have any experience. I'm the first person in my family to go to law school, but you know, I've wanted to be a trial lawyer my entire life. I see that your office goes to trial. I would love to be able to learn from you and get that experience so that I can start my legal career. That stands out to me. I want to give that opportunity to somebody. So don't feel worried or unwilling to apply to the program if you don't have 10 years of experience. We know that you don't. We are here to give you that opportunity.
Thank you. That's super helpful. I wanted to actually ask Charles if he had any tips or advice to pass on to students since you've recently been through the process, the application process in particular.
Yeah, I have a ton. I think to start, I echo what Jacqueline said about getting in the game. In particular, the judge that I clerked with, Judge Bennett, he had 3 interns for the first half of this summer, which is the time I spent with him. All 3 of us were of color. We were all from different law schools in Houston. So me from TMSL, one from U of H, one from South Texas. So that kind of helped me build my network. Both of his law clerks were of color. All of his staff was of color. So that just goes to show you that, you know, so he in particular, and so many other judges in our city, I think really really want to promote diversity, really want to open that door, and they know how important these opportunities are. He was once in our shoes, and all of the judges, be it, you know, at the federal or state level, they have all been in our shoes, and somebody opened the door for them, and they want to do the same thing for us. So don't be afraid, be yourself, take a chance, apply for all five opportunities you get. You know, don't just go in and apply for one. Use up all your chances and swing for the fences, and I think it'll pay off. And then I wanted to chime in on one of the earlier questions about the personal statement, because I thought about this too. I thought I had a pretty good personal statement, you know, coming into law school, and I thought about just using that for my HBA application, but I didn't. I took a part of that and I expanded because I realized that I wanted to also show that I was committed to diversity, and that, you know, my views, you know, I started to expand a little bit and get a little more comfortable and confident in what it is I wanted to do and what mark I wanted to make. And so I wanted to hone in on that in my personal statement. And I took that opportunity to tell a creative story. So I would encourage you to maybe start with your personal statement from law school. Maybe you start with something completely different, but just try to tell a story. And just remember, your whole entire application is about branding yourself. You know, start now as a 1L to brand yourself in terms of, you know, what kind of attorney you want to be. And I think you use that to tell the story you want to tell, and that comes out to, and I think that grabs, you know, the person that picks up your resume or starts to read your personal statement. So that's my initial advice.
Thank you. Super helpful. Do we have any questions from the audience before we move on to the deadlines? Okay, I'm going to move on. If anybody has a question along the way, feel free to type it in the chat or just wait for the next opportunity when we ask for questions. Next on our agenda is the deadlines. This is where you guys need to pay super, super close attention. We are having a student interview panel and employer meet and greet tentatively January 7th, 2021. And I believe it's going to be virtual. Is that correct, committee members?
Yes,
yeah.
That is the plan okay. As of right now, that it will be virtual. What I will tell you is that you will have the complete list of employers by the time this interview readiness panel and meet and greet is scheduled. And so what I always tell students is anytime there's an opportunity to network, to be in the same room with other professionals, or as Charles said, even other law students, I mean, that's your future network. Take it, definitely show up for that. You never know who you might run into. And at this point, you know, you will have more than likely decided who your 5 preferred employers are going to be. And normally the attorneys that show up to the meet and greet are from that list. And in a lot of cases, they are the ones that are making the hiring decisions for their firm. It's a great opportunity to get in front of them in a virtual setting, but still get your face across to them. You know, let them know that you're interested in applying. And when your application comes across their desk, they'll say, oh, yeah, I spoke to so-and-so. They were great. Charles was fantastic. I've been meaning to look for his application. So, you know, in addition to hoping to get an internship from this program, and Kristen will go through this, there's a variety of other programs and events that this committee puts on through the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and we certainly would encourage you to take advantage of all of them.
Yes, and I don't think we're expected to be back in school on January 7th, so we should have a lot of attendees for the virtual meet and greet. And the next program that the committee has scheduled is a mock interview program to help prepare students for an interview should they be selected for one by an employer. I'm trying to give you a break, Jackie, but I don't know what other committee member wants to chat about the mock interview program or the value of the mock interview program.
I think, Pamela, I think you are on the subcommittee for, I don't mean to put you on blast. But generally.
Yeah, but actually, this is my very first time going through this process. So I wouldn't be able to give details as to the actual mock interview process specific to the D&I committee. I could give information on interviews, mock interviews, but that's not exactly what you guys are asking. So Jackie, I have to get back to you.
Not a problem. Well, this will actually be news to Charles, who previously went through this program. So this mock interview program is a new component to this D&I committee this year. And as Kristen said, we are committed to setting you guys up for success so that when you walk into the room to interview with whatever employers you are interviewing with, you've got a little bit of practice under your belt. The way the mock interview program is going to work this year generally, and again, with COVID, we're still kind of working out the kinks on what the setting is going to be, but be it virtual or in person, the goal will be to give you some general tips about interviewing, positive ways to stand out, categories of things to stay away from. But really the highlight of the program is going to be breaking you guys out into groups to meet with real attorneys, practicing attorneys who are on our committee. So Bruce, Pamela, I'm sure I will be one of them as well, and we'll be paired up with students. And the goal is going to be to give you guys 8 to 10 minutes to do a mock interview. Let's pretend it's the real thing, so that you can get a little bit of practice. And then once that's done, you'll have the benefit of a real attorney. And again, in a lot of cases, these are the people making the hiring decisions at their firm who can give you some feedback so that when you do go into your real interview for an internship, some of the nerves will be out of your system. All those questions you had hopefully will be answered, and you will be in the best position to have a successful interview.
Thank you. And yes, I think it's a great opportunity. Anytime you get a chance to get in front of some people who work in the profession that you were interested in joining, it's a good opportunity, right? Even if you do the mock interview program and you don't do as well as you would have liked to have done, you've at least gotten some more experience. You've met with some other people. You can get some feedback. It's always a good opportunity. And just for the TMSL students who are on the call, Nikki and I also are available for mock interviews, and you can schedule appointments for us for that service through Simplicity. So if you're not able to attend the mock interview program through this committee, or if you just want additional practice, we have resources for that available as well. So we told you about, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would just add, take advantage of those resources, because interviewing is something that the more you do it, the questions seem to sound vaguely familiar. Once you do it, obviously several times, you just start noticing there's a lot of the same question being asked, but just a kind of a different way. So you start learning how to prepare for those questions that are going to come across if you do it more often.
It's a great point. Hands down, you're always going to get asked, tell me about yourself. Always. So everybody should be prepared to answer that question. And if you don't know how to do it, then you have about 2.5 months to practice.
And they're talking about elevator speech.
Yes.
Your marketing spiel for just who you are, what you bring to the table. So it's a lot of those things we can go over when we do, assist you guys in your mock interviews. And hopefully I'll have to work with my other committee members, but I essentially from previous volunteering organization, I have a full list of questions that helps people just know these are kind of the things that you're going to see. Obviously you might go into an interview and it may be way off on another level from these questions, but sometimes these are the questions. So hopefully I'll be able to prepare those for you and hand those out as well once we get to that place in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
So although we didn't have a mock interview or boot camp kind of program when I did this program last year, our OCI office still offered mock interviews, and we had alumni come and do mock interviews with us, and I took part in that. I would go to all the OCI events. I would go to the how to brand yourself, how to, if you're interested in small law firms, if you're interested in public interest work, and I would go to, you know, these trainings for just honing these kind of soft interview skills. And it was extremely helpful for me. Even as somebody who, you know, I'm older, I came to law school with 8 years of work experience, not in law whatsoever, it was in education, but I had experience interviewing, and I had a resume and a cover letter, and I thought it would be, you know, an easy transition for me. And those things, and I was able to build off of that, but it's a little different in a law interview. And so it was very helpful for me, even just to refresh some of those skills. So even for some of my older law school peers, or even if you're, you know, this is your first interview, going to, you know, when you apply for your internship, definitely take advantage of all of those resources. I often say our OCI department is the gem of our law school. They provide us with so many resources, and I just can't say that enough. Take advantage of them.
Thank you. I'm just going to make up one quick correction, Charles. OCPD.
OCPD.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm still
But
on
thank
OCI.
you.
Sorry.
Yes, no, but thank you. Thank you for the reference and the recommendation. And yes, everybody, please take advantage of it. We're not in the office physically like we prefer to be, but we are available virtually to assist you with all of those things. So we've talked about the employer meet and greet. We've talked about the mock interview program. The application deadline is January 20th, 2021 at 5 p.m. January 20th, 2021 at 5 p.m. All the applications will be submitted through Simplicity. We will be having a program, a webinar to show you how to go through the process of submitting the application, but you will not be sending anything in the mail. It all is going to be delivered through Simplicity. Every year, some students experience technical difficulties as they try to upload their documents, and so we encourage you to not wait until the last minute to submit your documents through Simplicity. Do not try to submit at 4:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the deadline, just in case technology goes down. You don't want to be left out of this opportunity due to a technology issue.
If I may, Kristen.
Applications. Yes.
Just briefly. So as we've discussed, if you start doing the math, if you're applying to 5 specific employers, and as Charles said, take advantage of every opportunity. So you've got those 5, and then you've got the generic, that's 6 applications, and each application has what, 4 or 5 documents between cover letter, personal statement, resume, attestation form. Some of the employers might want an undergraduate transcript, for example, or a writing sample. All that is to say, it's a lot of pieces of paper or a lot of PDFs on your computer once you actually come to the point of wanting to submit things. We encourage students, make yourself a checklist. Take the student packet with you. Make sure that you've got some way to track that you have all of these pieces. Unfortunately, every single year we come across extremely qualified candidates who forgot a resume. Extremely qualified candidates who, didn't check that attestation form. And unfortunately, we have to disqualify the entire set of applications. It kills us to do it every year, and unfortunately, it happens every year. So I cannot stress enough giving yourself time to make sure that you have all of these pieces. As Kristen said, these applications go up on Simplicity. Every year, there's a scramble at the end to try to get it done. And I'm a litigator at my law firm. You would think I would have learned this already. And even when I've got a deadline, I feel like it's a race to get it filed, and the PDF doesn't want to work, and the file is too large. You want to avoid that as much as you can by doing things as early as you can. Unfortunately, the deadline is also a hard deadline. So if anything comes in after 5, we won't be able to consider that either. Charles, you had a successful experience. You made it to the other side. I'm sure you've got tips and horror stories that would be extremely helpful if we've got some time to go into that.
Yeah, sure. I think, and actually I got this tip from the 2L at the program last year. She said to start a spreadsheet, and I still have this spreadsheet, and I still use it and expand on it as I was just going through the OCI process. But go through and kind of start listing out. I just created an Excel spreadsheet, all of the once the list of the firms came out and the judges, And I started doing my research right away. And I would just put little notes, little research notes about, you know, each opportunity that I wanted to apply for. And then once things started to progress, you know, even when it came to the interviews, I would put, okay, I have this interview coming up. These people are going to be in my interview. And I would go and do research on the specific people who are going to be in my interview. What time, where it's going to be, all of that. So yeah, definitely, I would say the key is to get organized, start calendaring all of these dates and the pieces of the applications. And one thing about simplicity is it only holds 10 documents at a time. So you have these 5 bids you're trying to put in, and each one of them wants they want a resume, you know, they want your application. You have the attestation form. You might have stuff from other things that you applied to, you know, so you might have to move some things around. So you definitely don't want to be doing that at the last minute. It will be tough. You will put the wrong firm on your cover letter, so don't wait till the last minute. And then also just get organized on your computer as well. So I started to create folders for all of my cover letters, different versions of my resume, every application I apply for. And this stuff will help you later as well as you have other opportunities, as you start to apply for scholarships and things like that. I was able to take some of my personal letter information and tweak it, or take my cover letter for a new job and tweak it. You know, so save this stuff. It's not useless once you finish this application. Just make sure you organize it so you can access it in the future.
Would you recommend, Charles, maybe putting like the firm name or the judge name in the file name so that you can see it quickly and make sure you've got the right one?
Definitely, yeah. I organize firm. I don't want to upload the wrong document to the wrong person. So I make sure that it's very clear just from the title, you know, who that cover letter is for example.
And that's one thing we've talked about in terms of proofreading. You know, Bruce is absolutely right. You know, typos, grammatical errors are a great way to stand out in a negative way. You want to avoid that, so you definitely want to give yourself time to proofread. But, you know, I certainly was guilty of this as a law student. It was so easy to copy and paste a cover letter and just kind of make a couple of changes across employers. And there is nothing wrong with that. If you're, you know, applying to 4 different litigation firms, it makes sense that you probably would have similar things to say in your cover letter. The place where mistakes can happen is not changing the firm name across all of those cover letters. So I've definitely come across cover letters that are addressed to Smizer, Kaplan, and Veselka, but then the last paragraph says, I would love to work at Jackson Walker. Little things like that. It happens every year. I certainly had those things happen to me. And so I always would make it a point to have a friend proofread it, somebody else with fresh eyes, have them take a look at it. Even if they know nothing about law school, they'll catch those kinds of things. And that's what you want. You want to catch them ahead of time, because I guarantee you the employers will catch them. So little things like that.
I had about 5 different people read my resume and still catch errors from, you know, I've been updating this resume for years. You know, I had Ms. Taylor, Ms. Smith, several of my law professors, my wife. You know, I had so many people read my resume and catch little things that I was able to, you know, fix before I sent it to anybody. So definitely proofread. Your writing sample, you definitely want to have that on point, especially if you want to apply for any of the judicial clerkships. They're going to want a writing sample. So if you did really well in LP, congrats. You know, you might just have a few tweaks that you can use for your writing sample. If you didn't do as well, it's not too late. I probably did mediocre, but I used that opportunity once finals was over to kind of tweak my writing sample, fix little things, go back and look at my professor's feedback, and make sure that I'm ready to go when January hits, because it's going to start moving fast and school is going to start, and you're going to run out of time. So you want to really take advantage of that winter break as well, to get all that reference letters, letters of recommendations, and just the application itself. So, you know, use all of the time you have.
Yes, to be Be cliche, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So you want to have a positive impression. The first opportunity that anybody in the committee is going to get to interact with you more than likely is going to be in writing, right? They're going to be reading your resume, reading your cover letters, reading your personal statements, and you want to stand out, but in a good way, so that they do want to interview, and then you can shine in the interview and hopefully land a position. So pay very close attention to the deadlines. Again, the application is going to be due January 20th, 2021 at 5 p.m. We expect that all the employers will then receive applications from students around February 1st, and then they will be contacting students directly for interviews. I think all the interviews are expected to be conducted and then offers extended by February 22nd. So the process is going to move very quickly. But Jackie, I did want you to touch on if there's a separate deadline for employers that are paying students versus ones that are not paying students, just so they can be aware of that.
Sure, yes. So what we have done is, the applications will be due all on January 20th at 5 p.m. But we as a committee are going to stagger when we send them to the employers, and I will tell you why. In prior years, students have applied to, let's say, a law firm that is going to pay them, and they've also applied to a judge. They end up getting interviewed by the judge first. The judge offers them an internship on the spot, and they want to take it. And then, as it turns out, a couple of days later, they get an opportunity to interview at the law firm. Now, we are all of the opinion, and I'm sure Charles would agree, an internship with a judge, state or federal, is an invaluable experience. But we also understand that people got to live. And sometimes your finances, your personal finances, really would be helped if you had a paid internship. And so we as a committee found that students were finding themselves in a tough spot of, maybe getting an opportunity to interview for a paid spot after the fact. So what we will do is all the applications will come in. We will send applications to the paid employers first, with the hope that they will get all of those internships and offers out of the way. And then we will do another round for the non-paid internships, which includes all of the judges, state and federal. Some of the government entities, I believe, are not paid as well. And so that is just something that we as a committee do to try to avoid some of the awkwardness that students have found themselves in past years.
Yes, and I think that'll be super helpful. Also, I did want to mention, it is expected that every student would accept an offer that has been extended by a judge, okay? I don't believe there's anything that we are signing in writing that says you must accept an offer from a judge, but just as Jackie mentioned, it's very prestigious and honorable to be asked to work for a judge in any capacity. So if only apply to a judge if you would accept an offer to work for that judge, okay? We would not want to see any students apply for a judge just in case if you're kind of wishy-washy or unsure about it and then decline the offer. So be very careful about that. You will get invaluable experience working with the judge, especially research and writing experience. I'm sure that you'll also get to, participate or view some of the proceedings that are going on. Every employer looks very highly upon any judicial experience. So if you do decide to apply to a judicial employer, please be prepared to accept the offer should it come. So we've discussed the application deadlines. We've discussed some of the programs. We didn't mention the boot camp. I guess we can touch on that. We have a few minutes left. We are planning to host a boot camp either in late March or early April for any students who have applied to the program. So there is no requirement that you must be hired by an employer to participate in the boot camp program. And the boot camp program is basically designed to, I guess, educate and update you on the basics of a law job, of a legal intern position, to talk to you about how to write a brief, how to write a memo, what it's like to work in a litigation department versus a transactional department. And maybe some of the other panelists can give a little bit more detail. I've never been through the boot camp program, but I can tell the students what they might expect.
Sure, I'll touch on that. So as Charles said, he's familiar. He went through the boot camp last year. And the boot camp is really the last bit of programming, official programming, that the committee does in order to prepare students to have a successful internship. Usually the boot camp is broken into 3 panels. We will do a litigation specific one, and it's really meant to kind of give you a crash course in what you can expect as an intern in a litigation department, be it at a firm, at a corporation, or even if you're with a judge. And then we also do a transactional panel. So again, a crash course in what it might look like if you're doing transactional or more regulatory work, again, at a law firm or for a corporate department. I think the panel that is probably most well received and most popular at the boot camp, but Charles, correct me if you think otherwise, is the final panel. And really what the purpose of that is we bring diverse lawyers who are here in the community to sit on that panel, and it really gives students the opportunities to, ask those hard questions. I know when I was a law student, there weren't that many people who looked like me in the profession, and when I did run into somebody who looked like me, I wanted to sit them down and just have them download their entire experience into me so that I knew how to navigate it. The boot camp, that's your chance to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's all about transition, right? So when you got to law school, you had orientation, which kind of helped you transition into what law school is going to be like. And boot camp for me was perfect. That transition into, okay, what is the summer going to look like? What is it really going to look like to start applying some of this law and this theoretical legal stuff that I've been learning in class? How do I apply that to, getting this order out for Judge Bennett? And it's a little different. It's a little different when you're actually, starting to put your skills to work and actually practice a little bit. It's a little different than your classwork. So you need that kind of jump start and kind of get your mind around what does this actually look like. So it's a great transition.
Right, and it's a good opportunity for any students, even if you don't decide to continue with the program, if you're not selected for a position in the program, it's still great skills to learn. It's an opportunity to network, to meet and greet, and to learn, develop new skills. So we encourage everybody to attend the boot camp. Once we finalize the dates, we'll be sure to let everybody know. The last topic that we wanted to touch on was the mentoring aspect of the program. Traditionally, things have been done in person. I know there's been social events, happy hours, sporting events, gatherings that have taken place, but things have had to change because of COVID and because of the social distancing guidelines, but the mentoring program is still continuing. And I believe every student is assigned an attorney mentor. So maybe Charles can talk about his mentor experience, or Jackie can talk about the mentoring aspect so that students know what to expect.
I will just briefly confirm that every student who applies to the program and receives an offer will be assigned an attorney mentor. Now that mentor is someone who is separate and apart from your employer. So for example, for our panelists here who are professionals, it's not uncommon to assign your student interns to some sort of mentor within your firm, within your office. The mentor that you're going to get through the D&I program is separate and apart from that. So it might be the case that you end up with a few mentors over the summer. But the purpose of the mentorship program here is to, provide you with another ear, another professional who you can talk to, ask questions to, if you're going through something that's a little bit difficult, or if you just had a great day and want someone to celebrate that success with, that's why you have that mentor.
Yeah, my mentor was completely outside. He's at a big firm downtown, and I was doing public interest work. So it was neat to kind of have that perspective of, and actually he had been before my judge a couple of times. So it was neat to kind of get some inside perspective from him about what my judge was like. So the mentors I have tons of mentors now, be it from law school, through HBA, through other programs I've been involved in, and actually just through my internship, the law clerks that supervise me are now my mentors. So definitely take advantage of your mentors. Keep in contact with them. It's kind of on you a little bit to seek them out because they get busy. But they will always, from my experience, my mentors have always been available whenever I had something come up and I actually had a question or I just want to share something with them or get their perspective on something. It's always available for me. So invaluable.
Bruce, as a partner at JW, I know that you've probably had several mentors throughout, or several mentees, excuse me, throughout your career. What are some tips or advice that you can pass on to our students about how to develop a strong relationship with a more senior mentor?
You know, it would be to take the initiative and understand that especially if it's someone who's got a very busy schedule, if they're not available at the exact time when you're available, have a backup and a backup to that. And there'll be times that work. And, you know, understand too that there's a lot of wisdom that you know, lawyers who've been practicing for a while can share with you. And we really have an interest in helping you avoid some of the missteps that we've made along the way. Everybody makes mistakes along the way. And if you can learn from some of the mistakes that older lawyers have experienced, you know, we take satisfaction in that, and it's good for you too. It's a two-way conversation. We learn from the mentees too. We really do. And it's a wonderful opportunity for both the mentor and the mentee, and it's a great opportunity as a student to learn some of the things that you learn less of in law school. You know, the non-academic things, the real world things, the business aspect of the law, you know, clients, just a whole host of things that I wish I knew more of when I was coming right out of law school, and we'd like to share with you.
I would add on
I'm sorry, go ahead, Pamela.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce. Thought you were finished.
No, I was going to take us in another direction, but please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add, it always works best if you set up times, as opposed to just kind of a random, you know, hey, can you take a call? Of course, those random things happen, but definitely set up some, you know, definitive times during the week that work for you and your mentor. When it is a little more kind of last minute, I would just send an email just saying, you know, do you have, you know, 10 minutes at 2 o'clock, something like that. And then follow up with an actual invitation. So it shows up on your calendar and it shows up on their calendar. I don't know, that sounds extremely formal, but it really helps and makes sure that you actually are able to have that dialogue that you need and you deserve, and that they want to provide to you, but you know, they're probably extremely busy. So just trying to connect with a good time. And then also, you know, some ongoing good times once a week, or, you know, however you guys set that up.
Yeah, that's really good advice at a lot of levels. And the only other thing I wanted to add, and it's you know, not specific to setting up these meetings, but it's at a high level for this program. There is no downside to applying to this program. There is only upside to applying. You know, if you're fortunate enough to get a 1L summer clerkship, there are so many great things that come from that. The experience you get from doing things as a summer clerk, from observing, from getting advice, from seeing what goes on, whether it's at a law firm or a corporation or a nonprofit or you know, working for a judge, if you're fortunate enough to do that. There's all great stuff that comes from that. But even if you don't get one of those, then you've had to take the time to put together a really good resume, a really good cover letter, to go through the steps of applying through the process. And that'll better prepare you for the more available 2L summer clerkships. I mean, there are just more of those out there. And then if you're fortunate enough to get an interview, you get a chance to practice in an interview, to go through an interview, one or more interviews as a 1L. And again, if you get that job, that's great. You've accomplished something terrific and you'll get great experience from it. But even if you don't get the job from the interview, you've had a quality interview. You've had a chance to see what it's like. And when you go into 2L interviews, it's not a mystery anymore. It's something you've been through. You know what to expect. You get benefit from that. So please apply. There's no downside. There's only upside for you and your career.
Thank you, Bruce. That was a perfect end to our presentation. This is the first major recruiting program that most of our 1Ls who qualify will have the opportunity to participate in. So we are in full support of all TMSL students who are diverse or who identify as a member of a diverse group to participate in this program. The OCPD is here with full support, and we're happy to transmit any questions that you have about the program or the application process and be a conduit between our students and the committee. I did want to give an opportunity for any students who are on the call to ask questions, whether it's related to the program or you just have questions about the panelists on the call. We've got about 10 students on the call, so you have a couple minutes if anybody has questions. Anybody? Okay. All right.
I'll throw one
Jackie?
thing out there
Yes.
quickly. I know that this is something that people may not necessarily think about until they're actually applying. Some questions that I've gotten in the past from students are, well, what's the difference between a cover letter and a personal statement? How is that going to be different? And what I normally tell people is that a cover letter should be geared toward the specific employer. So it's either going to be one of the 5, or it's going to be to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And usually that's, you know, pretty quick, where you are just explaining your interest in working for that particular employer, why you're interested in a particular practice area, why you want to work in this particular industry, anything of that nature. But it's pretty targeted to that specific employer. A personal statement, I think, as Charles was saying, it's more the story about yourself. And it could be really over anything. It could be why you decided to pursue a career in the law. It could be about an experience you had as a diverse individual. It could be the kind of experience that you're looking to get. It's a little bit more general and it's more about you, whereas a cover letter is more specifically targeted toward the particular employer.
Very helpful nuance. Do we have any questions? I think we just had, yes, Ms. Colbert.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for having this. This was very helpful. I did have a question about the writing sample you mentioned. What is the best type of writing sample that maybe we could start to work on or start to pull to put together? Because that would be separate from your either personal statement or cover letter, of course. So is there, what document would be best for a writing sample?
You have, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think it's a one size fits all. It could be a memo. It could be a brief that you wrote. It could be an article that you wrote. It's just, we're looking for something that's well written, well organized, that presents well and is persuasive.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Right.
I could just say what I used was my memo from LP class.
Right.
Our first writing assignment, and actually we rewrote it several times. So I probably rewrote that thing about 5 times. So that was what I used. Would just be not all of the positions will even require writing samples. Just some do. But just be cognizant of the page limits and things like that may cause you to have to adjust a little bit. But I think for the most part, my memo was ready where I could just, you know, put a little summary on the beginning of it, so whoever picked it up kind of had an idea of what I was writing about and send it off. But yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And as you go on in your career, right, after your first 1L job, you'll probably have written some documents that you may be able to use in the future. You will have to get permission from the attorney who's supervising you to use any work product for your future employment endeavors. But I will say the longer you go on in your career, you will have more things to choose from beyond something that you've used in your LP class.
Yeah, and I usually tell students, you know, especially if you're going into a writing heavy internship, and usually that's the case if you're maybe like in a litigation group or if you're with if you're with a judge, to be upfront at the very beginning and say, you know, I would love the opportunity to write something that I could potentially use as a future writing sample. Just one, so you let them know that that's what you want to do. And if they're uncomfortable with that, they'll let you know from the start. But also so that when they're assigning work, they can think, oh, that's right, Yvette wants something substantial or something that's going to give her a significant and meaningful writing experience. Let's put her on that assignment.
We have any other questions? Okay, well, let me just say the application will be available on Simplicity. Any questions that you have about the program, please contact myself or Nikki Smith with the OCPD. You guys should all know how to get in touch with me. And then any questions that you have along the way about the program, please don't hesitate to ask. I want to thank all of the panelists for joining tonight, Jackie, Bruce, Judge Medina, and Justice Medina, and also Charles for your insight. I don't have any further comments. If anybody wants to leave the meeting with anything, please feel free to chime in.
I would just say I'm actually on the other committee that's communicating with the law firms. There are a lot of law firms out there, so please apply. I beg you.
Tell your friends, tell your classmates.
Absolutely.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for your time. This will be going out to the entire 1L class. So thank you for your time, and everybody have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.